Welcome back to the latest episode of TT Plays. My name's Sung Soo, and today we've got another gameplay video. So we have Serene Fire, and I'll give you one chance to guess what deck it is. Now, to be fair, there are several Serene Fire decks, and identifying early what the deck is important. If it's ever Serene Fire Pass, you're in a weird spot, but I think you can realistically expect to see Serene Fire Luxem Zander and Serene Fire Umbra Diana. Now, I think Scry the Skies pretty clearly shows what we're looking for. And Luxem sometimes feels like it's autopilot, but I do think there's some important decisions, and one of them is how aggressively to glimpse at the beginning of the game. But let's get back to the game here. It's obviously a fire on fire. We have a Flame Rune Swordsman coming in for 2. We have an Arsonist coming in for 2 as well. We force the level up to Zander. We banish a Planted. We glimpse 2 here. We think about it for half a second, maybe a full second. And again, we're planning out level next turn, Dungeon Guide, and then can I have some Luxem left over in my hand? So we move through Recollect, and again, right, the line is I play a card this turn, next turn I'm going to Dungeon Guide. So we Thieving Cut into the Arsonist, we get the draw to replace. 3 cards down. The 1 card in our hand we can't afford to get rid of is the Dungeon Guide. So I kept this Curse, and I clearly shouldn't have. That was a misplay. I should have bottomed that to the Glimpse, because ultimately that card doesn't matter, and you'll see that in just a minute here. So the Flame Room comes in for 2. Grand Crusader Ring gets a little bit wider. So obviously this is some kind of aggro fire allies deck. So we're just trying to hold them off to level 3 and then hope we stabilize there. Crimson Tear only comes in for 2 because they're not level 1, strapping a similar situation. We push to Zander level 2, and we get to take that Thieving Cut back, and Zander level 2 is honestly just insane. Getting back Thieving Cut or Juggle Knives is just, or Planted, it's just a borderline insane amount of value. But obviously you can see I kept that Curse in my hand, and there's absolutely no reason to. I should have bottomed it. That was a misplay. So we'll go to the Dungeon Guide. We end up keeping the Curse just to continue punishing us for it. We are able to kill the strapping with the Dungeon Guide, and we're just going to pass the turn here. And we feel pretty good for a number of reasons. The Fire player isn't that wide. We're only at 10 life taken, which is a pretty comfortable number for us. And we've got a Luxem in the hand, so we can start recovering 3 as soon as, not this Recollect, but next Recollect. Again, Crimson Tear here only coming in for 2 again. Clumsy, always a great card. And when I've been building my fire aggro decks lately, I've been hemming and hawing over the number of unique allies I want. Gildy, Arthur, Rococo, Crimson Tear. You can just end up with a lot of uniques in the deck. Alright, they actually had a really good turn here. They ended up kind of exploding as far as number of allies on the board. 18-2. We could be in a better spot for sure. But we end up taking a Tariff Ring, hoping we can hold them up for a turn, take slightly less damage, and get our Recollect to start regaining life here. Top decking the Thieving Cut, well, not top decking, but not losing it previously is obviously important here. We get to draw off of that as well, and we'll have a couple different options come next Materialization to get more cards in our hand down, but at the time we have all the Luxem, barring whenever we draw off that Thieving Cut. They're going to level up, which is always interesting when you're facing the Tariff, because you're taking away a card, you know Tariff is kind of coming, but they planned out this turn rather nicely anyway, so it worked out for them just fine. So obviously they think about swinging with the hasty, they remember the tariff has been procced, and now they have to do some mental gymnastics. You also have this thing like Old Rye where you don't necessarily want to push Zander over 20 to turn on Chalice, but you have to get them to release anyway, because this deck isn't going to big burst unless they're playing some explosive fire cards from their graveyard, and the only thing I've seen so far is Hone. Hone's relevant, but I don't know if they're playing Rending Flames, right? Rending is a very scary card here. And that does change my materialization here a little bit. So we main deck Grail in Luxem Zander, and there's a few different reasons for doing that. If you're going to level up with the Dungeon Guide, and for some reason you had to take a turn off, you could Grail, banish the Luxem map, level up with the Dungeon Guide, and then Grail to basically speed up the map a turn. The other option is right here, where I materialize the Grail, and what do you think I put under it? I've seen the Hone, I'm aware that they can be an explosive fire deck. So it looks to Nigel, and he plays as though I put a Nullifying Lantern under it. Did I? I mean, we'll find out whenever I crack it. We have one of my favorite cards in hand from Alchemical Revolution, and that's Serum of Wisdom. I fell in love with the card playing Erisana, of course, but I'm happy to play it in Luxem Zander here as well. Glimpsing 3, drawing 1 to memory is just incredibly powerful, and a welcome effect in most slow, stodgy decks. So Lorraine has lost a lot of oomph, and really all I'm afraid about is an explosive turn using Rending or Blazing Throws. Arthur is concerning, but I know I can deal with him next turn. Arsonist here comes in for 2. Rococo is obnoxious. So in response to the Rococo, I go ahead and I pop the Serum just to see kind of what I have going on. We end up getting a little bit lucky here, and then we do have to release Fire. And one of the things I'll play as one of the things to say as a Luxem player is you have to remember you released. I go ahead and banish the Grail, and it was the map. So I don't know if my fake out worked, but hopefully it did. Now I'll grab an Unprotective Null Lantern. That was a little aggressive, but I knew I needed to find another Assault or Sight to really keep myself in this game. Now I do want to take a moment here and explain how level 3 Zander works. You should grant yourself and an opponent an opportunity to respond before you reveal. And this is important because once you reveal, you have to fully resolve the reveal effect, which will have your opponent put cards in memory equal to the number of Luxem cards. Then for any of the reveal effects, they will be triggered and basically placed on the stack, and your opponent will have an opportunity to react to each one of them. However, this is after fully resolving Zander's ability himself, so your opponent has to put X cards down into memory before having the opportunity to respond to any triggered abilities. We can also respond to the trigger ourselves, paying any costs for materials like an insignia, or playing any fast spells to get more cards of our own down in memory before the reveal process. So as you see, we end up getting a Null Lantern here, which again, hopefully keeps us safe from the really explosive fire turns. They end up materializing a Bulwark Sword, which is always a little scary, but let's see what they have in store for us. We go ahead and take 5 right off the bat, pushing us to 21. That's not comfortable, but it is what it is. We have some options to stay alive, namely Lightweaver's Assault. If we have to, we can put our Luxem Sight down to Lightweaver's. That will recover us 6. Obviously, I don't want to, so he presents 24, and I'm happy to settle there. Now here I have some decisions, and I believe, yep, I attempt to Creative Shock. Nigel points out that I don't have it, and I'm glad he caught that. So I end up hemming and hawing here for a while, a couple different options. Basically, I need to get the other site down, and I'm pretty sure I can win next turn. Double checking the math. Again, I definitely can win. I'm just not as comfortable with the lines at the time of this recording. Since then, I've probably gotten 20 more games. So I'm by no means an expert, but definitely more seasoned now than I was at the time of this recording. This is kind of a painfully long materialization. We end up Excaliburing in end step to clear the Safeguard Amulet, which does clear our way for the victory. We're going to reveal the double assault to push 4 through, and I only need to recover 3 because I'm pretty sure I'm going to win at this stage. It was actually a misplay there to not pop the Chalice in response to the Zander trigger. There's a chance I could have played an instant to put more down, but at that stage I knew he didn't have any reaction. So just double Lightweaver's Assault. What you do is you play the first Lightweavers, hold priority, play the second Lightweavers. So by the time the first Lightweaver is resolved, you have 8 cards in memory. So they end up doing 16 plus whatever reveal triggers we have here. So we squeak out the win here. Again, it always felt more comfortable than it actually was, and the Nigel's deck always surprised me with just the amount of damage he could push through. Do you think I was too greedy with the Grail to the Luxeris map? Do you think I needed to put the Nullifying Lantern down there? At the time, I'm pretty sure I felt enough pressure that I was willing to take the risk, but let me know what you think down in the comments. I would always appreciate a like and a subscribe, and you can stay tuned for games 2 and 3 coming up soon. So until next time, everyone, cheers and happy gaming.